Yeah, this is good. Thanks. So not your first award, huh?
No, but probably the one I'm the most proud of, to
Aw.
tell you the truth.
That's very nice.
For sure. I mean, you really couldn't even think up a cooler organization than what you guys are doing, really. And I'm humbled and honored, for sure.
That's very kind of you to say, Mike. Thanks. We're very thrilled you and a lot of your team are here tonight. So you've been in the news, or lots of companies have been in the news lately. Apple FBI has certainly raised awareness about encryption. And many people are becoming familiar with Silent Circle, but why don't you tell folks in the room who may not have heard of you or the company a little bit about how you got started and why you do what you do?
That's a great question. So, out of the gates, I'm a former enlisted Navy SEAL without a college degree. So, country boy. How we ended up to where we are today it's a great story. So most of you know my two co-founders, Phil Zimmerman. He's the Internet Hall of Fame. He's literally the creator of most encryption today. He fought the federal government in the 90s to get PGP out, and that's how the world got encryption, literally. And then my other co-founder is John Callis, who is actually the creator of Apple's whole disk encryption, and one of the world's most noted cyber experts. When I first got out of the SEAL teams back in 2001, I started a defense firm. Sometimes timing is everything. I had started a defense firm literally 8 months before 9/11, 6 months before 9/11. And so I was deployed a lot. At one point, when I was the CEO, we had over 9,200 employees running all over the world. But it's really where I saw a problem that wasn't being solved. I would sit in a hotel in Dubai or in Argentina or a Hilton here or a hotel in Ankara, Turkey, and you'd see men and women, businessmen and women from all over the world on their phone, smartphones, 2010. And nobody knew that every single word they were saying, every document they were sending, every text they were doing was literally being glommed out of the air by everybody. Right? It's not, people love to poke fingers at the NSA or something. It's everybody. And so I wanted people deployed overseas to be able to call home and say goodnight to their kids. Maybe to talk to a lawyer about something. And I thought it was our given right as citizens of the world. Doesn't matter if you're a Kenyan born in a mud hut or fancy in the halls of Wall Street in Greenwich. You have the right as a law-abiding citizen to whisper in somebody's ear 1,000 miles away without 28 people listening into it. And that's what started Silent Circle, and then it just took off. Snowden revelations didn't hurt us.
Mike, is the security of our personal information more at risk today then? After Snowden, after 9/11? Has the threat changed? What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, the threat's always been there, but it's almost like Moore's law of computing. It continues to increase every 6 months, the threat to our data. Why is that? Because as smartphones and tablets and technology in our cars and our toasters and our fridges begins to become ubiquitous across our lifestyle, so does our signature. Even in most homes today, you have a refrigerator that can talk to your smartphone. You have Nest, where you can control the temperature. All of that gives up little bits of your digital life. What a lot of people don't understand is it's not so simple as saying, oh, it's the Chinese or somebody or the NSA hacking me or the FBI claims are going black, or hackers that are stealing your financial. You literally have 40 to 50 apps on your phone that are leaking your data every hour. Every hour. On top of it, the phone itself is, and the telecom that you have the chip with, all getting your data every hour. So people say the boogeyman, right? I guess you need to figure out who the boogeyman is. And it really depends upon who you think it is.
Now, you've mentioned home and telecom. Is there any particular industry or sector that you're most worried about?
Obviously, in my view, I'm really worried about governments going back and pushing too far. And why I worry about that, we're a Swiss firm, believe it or not. We're based in Geneva, Switzerland. There's a reason why we're not in the EU and we're not in North America or the States. And it's not because, I'm not a proud American. I spent 13 years in the SEAL teams in third world countries protecting us. It's because you can't take sides. And we talked about this earlier. We've been asked to sit in Italian parliament and rail against Congress. We've been asked to be with the Dalai Lama railing against China. And obviously we've been asked here in the States to rail against the NSA. But we don't, because we know it's our responsibility to be as neutral as possible, although everybody knows we're not really, they know where we stand, privacy first and foremost. But I worry when I hear the rhetoric coming out of governments simply because they don't understand that you would be clipping the global economy. What do I mean by that? You've often heard of people calling for backdoors in software, right? Well, we often view things as Americans. Well, let me tell you something. If you're in a German company and somebody says, we passed a law in America that says you have to have a backdoor in your software, in your router. Uber needs a backdoor. And cybersecurity software. Imagine being a US technology firm going over to Germany and saying, hey, we'd really like you to buy our security software. Oh yeah, there's a backdoor in it for our government. It would kill innovation, right? And the problem is, when you try to explain that to government, you're kind of lost, there is a kind of a blank stare. So I think that's my greatest concern. And my second greatest concern is that our youth, you have children, I have children, that the idea of privacy begins to be overshadowed by convenience. But what they don't understand is that posting a picture in your bikini or inappropriate at a bar can hound you at your first job interview. Talking about your medical history down the road can hurt you when you go to get a premium at 25 or 26. And I don't think we're really had the backlash yet. I think that's still coming.
So you talked about the government, but what do you say to those who say, and there are many, maybe even some in the room, who say, but strong encryption actually is weakening our national security?
I would patently say that's absolutely incorrect, but I respect everybody's opinion. There's my political statement of the year right there, my PC statement of the year. Funny thing is, 10 years ago, if you got stopped going through an airport and they found encryption on your laptop or something, they go, what are you trying to hide? Today, if you don't have encryption, people go, what are you, stupid? Think about it. From ATMs to your healthcare, to your phone, to your banking, to buying on Amazon. The great folks of Amazon are over here. How do you think you get that package securely in half a day if it was hacked by everybody? Security and encryption are behind it. It is a fabric of our life. And if you deteriorate that fabric, you have just opened up our entire world to, look, we're already kind of immune now to reading about more and more hacks, hospitals being ransomware, governments being hacked. By the way, I got my letter from the PAO office that my information when I was in the SEAL teams was hacked. It was an uncomfortable letter to get, but I got it. So those things will happen. It doesn't mean it's the government's fault, but strong encryption is what makes it harder and makes the world safer.
Doesn't he get applause for that? Come on.
Thank you.
So you've got a room full of Washington policymakers and bigwigs and VIPs. Here's your chance. So what do you want to tell people in Washington to do or not do in the next year or two on encryption or anything else?
That's a very difficult question, one of the most difficult ones probably ever asked. What I would say is sometimes it's just better to take a deep breath. Sometimes no decision is better than a hasty decision. And oftentimes, innovation and science will win. What do I mean by that? Sometimes instead of legislating, it's trying to legislate water. You can't really do that. It flows wherever it goes. This type of natural discourse that's going on, and it's not just America, it's in the world, between the great people in law enforcement that have a job to protect us, and privacy, as well as businesses who want strong encryption to protect their IP, because it's just bad out there. What I would say, let's just take a deep breath, because I guarantee you science and the cool kids out in the valley and here in DC, pounding away on laptops with ponytails, they're going to find a way. And you cannot stop encryption. You can't. You could, in the US, say, encryption here needs a backdoor. Great. 57 of the products are outside of the US. Well, how do you do that? That's what I mean, it's by water. So I think if they took a little more time, and because our policymakers are busy people, and let the information flow, people become more educated in it. It's not a quick stamp sign bill, because it has dire consequences if it does.
Fantastic. So we're standing between folks and dessert, and we're mingling, but what are your last words or thoughts for this group, and where are we headed from here?
Well, the interesting thing is, in my point of view, I now at 48 years old, I have my wife and I have a 14-year-old daughter. My wife's former Secret Service, so both of us come from really blue roots within caring about our country. But it's why I fight, why we care so much about privacy around the world for our country. We think it's an absolute right from everybody. But I've seen things where small groups of dedicated, fervent, believing people can do both good, like creating silent circle and encryption and the iPhone and VPN and great technology, but can be for bad. Think about what's happening in Brussels. People that are fervently believing in a thing of terror and destruction. But I vote for the geeks, because think about that's how Silent Circle happened. A team of really, really smart, world-famous engineers got together because they believed about something fervently, which was putting privacy in the hands of every citizen in the world, so that you could whisper in somebody's ear 10,000 miles away without it being recorded, somebody taking it or stealing it. It was that fervent devotion to solving the problem of privacy that changed a lot of the world, where it's now, of course, it's a discussion, it's what you defend, and it's what is in our technology. But it can be for bad, fervent focus of things. But that's why I vote for the geeks. I think science will find a way. And so optimism is really important to me. We provide our technology to women's rights groups in Afghanistan, that if they get caught with our phone, will be stoned to death. So when you talk about people that have a lot on the line, that changes it. I may trip out here getting my glass of wine and, I dinged my shoe up. First world problem, right? These people will be stoned to death if they're found having our encrypted phone, because they can communicate to human rights groups and send their information, and it can't be hacked. Same in Syria. It makes me feel like a coward that those young women were willing to put their life at risk. That's what really makes us care about our job, because there's more at stake than when there's somebody buys our phone or our software. And the Dalai Lama knighted my co-founder, John Callis. We got some funky looking blue bowl out of the deal, but it was pretty cool. And he said that to us. He said, never forget that there are people who are putting their life on the line for us and for privacy. So build well, he said, build well. So always remember that.
Thank you, Mike, so much.
Thanks for having me.
That's fantastic. Fantastic.